Okay, I've been told that for any reason I'm against at all.
Blue team double kill.
Welcome to Blue Otter League Diamond, where I, Dia, and Fury take you through some of the best League of Legends action you can find around. And Fury, we're into our second week this time, and it's going to hold two very different teams and likely 2 or 3 very different games than what we saw just last week.
Definitely. I mean, game one, week one is always the week to get your kinks out of the way, start coming together as a team if you guys aren't completely synergized yet, start feeling each other out, start feeling out the other teams, get some scouting in. Game two, game three, and weeks 2 and 3, I think, are really where everybody's going to start coming together. We'll start seeing a lot bigger plays, a lot more competitiveness between the teams. Week 1 for both of these teams, however, that we're seeing tonight, Dcim8 Legacy and Dragon to the West, didn't go too well for them, both ending on losses. Dcim8 Legacy actually picking up a win over CB M&M, however. We'll see if that translates to anything tonight going against Dragons.
Now, what you see above our heads, just for a little bit of context, are the teams that are going to be playing today. Not all of them will be shown on stream, only the ones featured in the center. And I am pointing in the right direction for once in my life. I managed to do it right the first time. It is also worth noting, though, that right above my head, we've got a team that's already gone 0-2. And Fury, can you give me a little bit more insight on this?
Yeah, unfortunately, NFE are going to take a loss tonight, 0-2, because they had another player rank out into cap exception. You're not allowed to have 2. They've been having some issues already trying to pull together their team from the beginning. So now that they found their 5, they just kind of want to keep their 5 stack and not, risk losing and getting all these changes going, which I hard agree on. I know how hard it is putting a team together, and I know how hard it is to lose members and try to scramble to find another one. So they are going to FF tonight. They'll more than likely still be playing their game with RMB, from what I heard. But we'll see how they end up going and whether or not they have to swap out a team going into next week for us. I think we'll have to find another Diamond team.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, right? On
Exactly.
one hand, it's like, oh, I'm sorry to see you go. And on the other hand, you're like, wait, congratulations, you ranked up, man.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure, yeah. Can't really say anything about that, Good job.
Exactly, go slay. Actually, I wanted to speak a little bit about people who, well, they perhaps haven't ranked out, when they haven't disqualified themselves, still have been performing really well. You and I just pre-stream were debating who, based on last week's performances, based on basically 3 games that have gone down so far, might be some of the more impressive teams to keep our eyes on. And Fury, this is again, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this in terms of the debate between the CB and the Hypnotic rosters.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking into, right? Whether or not CB or Hypnotic is just stronger as a roster altogether, because that does kind of sway how I feel about the games coming up. Dcim8 were able to get a game in, that obviously adds to them. But at the same time, a lot of people talk about CB Eminem not necessarily having the strongest roster altogether, and that Hypnotic is just a better team overall. Riddy Sang Jr. and CB Eminem are both great players. That is something that I've been looking at quite a bit. But Lil Fizzy on Dcim8 actually won all 3 lanes in all 3 games last week. So that is something I'm taking into account going into tonight. I think even though Hypnotic might be a stronger team, I don't think we can count out the fact that Dcim8 still look very strong.
With a support playing their top lane, by the way.
Exactly.
With the
support playing top.
Winning top lane, it is proof for all of you at home. The support is indeed the most mechanically intensive role. But jokes aside, it is really impressive to have seen that happen last week against an arguably quite strong team, and also to see that Dcim8 in their singular victory were able to do that in the late game as well. They were one of our games that did end up going to 2 Barons, and to have Dcim8 be in control of both of them and be able to run this Yasuo, Amumu, Kog'Maw, hyper-scaling late-game AD composition and actually make it work is pretty darn cool. It's not something that we see every team be able to do.
No, definitely not. I mean, Kog'Maw and Lulu, obviously very, very good champions, very good synergy, but it's very hard to always pull that off. You can pull it off if you stay safe, pull back a little bit, wait for 2.5, 3 items. But if you can't hit that, then really what are you doing for your team? Because if Kog'Maw's not ahead, then he's just screwed, right?
Speaking of 2-3 items, we're in the draft, and Yone, one of those champs that wants to hit that threshold, already taken away. Dcim8 Legacy going to be the ones to remove that option, as well as the Renata. Support's actually attracting a lot of attention. Renata, no surprise. Taric? That ban's a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, Taric was played last week by Dcim8. They played Vel'Koz Taric in the bot lane.
Nice.
Didn't do spectacular with it, but I can imagine in the bot lane it's just very annoying. A lot of pressure that's going to be put in, a lot of poke. Just a lot of just safety that comes in there. There's that Fiora ban. I'm going to bring this up. Dcim8 Legacy had both Fiora and Camille banned in all 3 games. So we'll see if they prioritize the Camille coming up now that it's not banned in the first stage, but I don't think they will.
Now, Dcim8 were also one of the teams that said they were just going to outdraft everyone. And starting with a Sivir pick is not a bad way to do it. I'm a little biased on the Sivir, actually, Fury, because I know it's been gaining a lot of hype internationally. I mostly watch CBLOL, like the league from Brazil, and their Sivir has been trash. She's won 1 game, got a pentakill, and the other 8 games she's lost. So, very flip-floppy champion to me, but Draven, that's a pick that's universally strong.
Draven being picked up is feast or famine 100%. You're either 10-0 or 0-10. One way it goes really well and the other it just doesn't. Sivir, though, we talked about this on BOL Breakdown on Saturday. Sivir has one of the worst win rates in BOL right now. Between IBS all the way up to Diamond. IBS is like a 75% win rate, but that's in 4 games. Out of all the other games, Sivir has like a 30-something% win rate, and it doesn't look good. So I'm a little iffy, a little bit wary on the Sivir pickup here. They are hovering that Yuumi, though.
This was our most banned champion in Diamond last week.
It was, for a good reason. Yuumi is always a very solid pickup. And last week, Dragons actually pulled a Yuumi ban in the bot lane, which was their only ban. They didn't get any ADCs banned. I think they actually had Sivir banned in Game 2 last week. But that was the only ADC that was banned after Game 1. And then Yuumi was banned. Those were the only 2 bot lane anything that Dcim8 saw banned. or excuse me, that Dragons saw banned, and they were both just picked up by Dcim8.
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit nervous here for Dragons that 2 of their strongest picks that were banned away are now picked up. But they do have the Draven Soraka.
One of the really nice things here as well is that they've got the Jarvan into a Mumu, and I'm surprised to see a Mumu priority in general, like in a meta state. Although for Dcim8 it does make sense. We know they've played it before to great success, but one of the things that no matter how much you play Mumu, you can't really shore up is that his early game is really not that good, and Jarvan's is really quite good. And so this is going to be a really nice bonus for Dragons of the West, especially because they've got a bot lane that does require a little bit of attention. You can tell they've done their homework because they see that in Mumu and instantly they ban the Yasuo.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. The one game that Dcim8 had on that Yasuo, that Slayer was actually able to get it where it wasn't banned, was won by them. That was the one game that they managed to pick up. And then this Amumu that's been picked up now actually looked very solid last week. So we'll see if that holds up to it. It worked really well against CBM and M. I don't know about Dragons. Like you said, this J4 is going to look really good in the early game. Also, I will point out, Camille has been left up as of now. So that could be an easy pickup here for Dcim8 if they choose to grab it.
Yeah, I'm curious with both, the Yone and the Yasuo taken away. You've got 2 of these hyperscaling critters taken off the board. However, there are other hyperscaling options in the mid lane, just perhaps ones that are a little bit more AP focused, and a lot of those remain up. Things like the Cassidy that's also melee, should you choose to go with it, tends to be a pretty nice pick, even though it hasn't been meta to recently. But they're going to have to decide, Dcim8, rather, will have to decide after Dragons of the West have made their first selection, and with the Mundo taken away as well, tanks don't seem to be the focus just yet for the top lane. I don't think Dcim8 want to do a tank into tank matchup, but Dragons of the West are going to get the nice end of it no matter what. Kled is really good at skirmishing and really good at taking tanks down.
Kled is actually the first on the list for Ewok in terms of playing. Take a look at that OPGG. A lot of Kled games in there. Looks very comfortable on it. Very good at skirmishing. A lot of innate heal cut already built in to the kit. Jax being hovered here by Dcim8. I don't know the matchup between Jax Kled.
It's pretty good.
I can't imagine it's great for the Jax, but I mean, I guess it depends on the timing of Counter-Strike and where the Bear Trap on a Rope land.
It should be all right for Jax. A lot of it just has to do with being able to Counter-Strike Kled's W, the sort of passive autos that end up coming up at the right time. We talked about AP hyperscaling mid laners, and this is one. Victor being picked up here would give you a really nice 4-man core unit for Dcim8 while opening up the split push option with this Jax, but it does start to tell you where exactly Dcim8 are going to be paying their attention early game and even mid game, because we've got a Jarvan on one hand that should be able to help out Draven Soraka. Dcim8 have to be getting equal or greater value up towards the top side to get this Jax snowballing against Kled, because otherwise you're going to be on a 50-50 matchup the entire time.
And honestly, that pickup of the Victor, it's a solid pickup for the team of Dcim8, but it's also a big takeaway from Dragons. Both games last week, Crowfeather played Victor. Game 1, pretty solid. Game 2, it seemed like they started to falter a little bit. Dcim8 Legacy kind of using it to their advantage, being able to pick it up onto their team. However, not a whole lot of DPS on their side. Dragons of the West looking a little bit cleaner on the draft in my book. The only thing I'm a little bit wary on is the bot, that Draven Soraka, that could go horrendously wrong or could just scale this team into the early and then mid game very quickly.
I want to talk a little bit about the Sylas pick there, because you said that you like Dragons of the West's composition overall. Sylas isn't getting a whole lot of value from the ultimates of Dcim8. Jax ult is nice, Amumu ult is really good, but the other 3 just, it's not they're terrible, they just don't feel that good. So talk to me a little bit about where this Sylas slots into the draft that you like so much.
So honestly, the lockdown that he has to be able to even get to the back line, or just hold the front line. If he wants to hold Jax where he is and skirmish against him, use his ult against him, can be really good. While Kled and J4 try to get to the back line, he can kind of be a nice middle ground and sit in between where J4 is going to be sitting and where Draven and Soraka are, to not let anyone into the back. However, he could also just get blown up, depending on the strength of Decimate Legacy when these fights start to open up. But I do think a Victor ult could be really good. Their whole team is a little bit tight-knit. The Amumu, the Jax, the Victor, the Sivir. They don't have a whole lot of range, unless Sivir's just sitting in the back with Q and W, which she really can't do, but her auto attacks are very short. If he manages to get a Victor ult and plop it down, an Amumu ult and plop it down, or even a Yuumi ult, and be able to lock the whole team down with that, his team can scale very hard off. It just is a matter of the positioning of Decimate Legacy and whether or not we see Silas take advantage of that during those fights.
Yeah, I'm very curious about Jojo Mojo's positioning on this Sivir because there is so much sticking to the AD carry on Dragons of the West. Spell Shield isn't going to get a whole lot of value. You aren't going to have so much self-peel. And so where you start the fight and exactly when you choose to insert yourself into that relatively short range that Sivir has is going to matter quite a bit. Dragons of the West, on the other hand, their win condition isn't so much geared towards positioning in the late game, protecting their AD carry, as much as that's going to be nice. This is a snowball composition. When I look at Kled in the top lane, when I look at Silas, who wants to get up close and personal with you, and especially when I look at that Draven Soraka.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely want to just be in your face. It is going to be a little bit hard for them to sit back, as it is for Decimate. Decimate might even have a better time sitting back just a little bit because that Yumi's going to be able to poke, Victor's going to have some poke, and then like we talked about, that Sivir going to be having a little bit of poke as well. However, the damage is going to be what it comes down to. Kled, I think, is going to be able to shred a little bit faster, as is Draven, barring he's not 0-7 by the time they get out of lane. If he's strong, if Kled's strong, the shredding they're going to have just in their kits, without even really needing to build Morellonomicon or LDR, is going to help immensely with the itemization between two champions. Even though they both are AD, all their AP is coming from that Silas. The heal cut they're going to have is going to help with the fact that besides Amumu, there's not going to be a whole lot of tankiness on Decimate's side.
No, that's the very scary thing for them, is that they need a couple items before they really start feeling comfortable, especially people like that Jax. And for both of these junglers, for both of these teams, it's going to be a game of really balance between the top and bot sides that can snowball really well for both teams. Sivir, Yuumi, if they get off the ground early, aren't going to have a problem dealing with Draven Soraka, who become irrelevant very quickly should they die just once or twice. Same thing can happen up on the top side. Kled gets a few kills on Jax gets a few kills on Kled. That matchup is a wash, with two lanes on opposite sides of the map that can snowball so hard. It is all going to come down to these junglers to see how they perform on the Rift. Before we hit that, we're going to take a very quick break, let our players load in, and we'll see you again on the Rift.
team's turret has been destroyed. Blue team double kill.
Welcome, folks, as we got the Rift all ready to go. We're ready to pop into the game. A reminder, of course, it's Dcim8 versus Dragons of the West. Game number 1. Fury, we talked about this a little bit before the game. This is going to be one where the lanes are very, very snowbally. If you're a Mumu and you've got to deal with this Jarvan, where on earth are you going for safety?
I'm making sure that my team is aware of where that Jarvan is first and foremost, right? I need to make sure that I am constantly keeping track of him because you know he's going to go for the cheesy level 2 invade. Going to try to get something probably on the bot side or even mid. I don't think he goes top. Probably a little bit hard to go top early against the Jax. Just because if he starts Q, you can Q back to his wave and get out. If I'm a Mumu, I'm just making sure, hey, this is where J4 is. Watch out, stand back, don't get ganked, and then I can be down there if he does gank, maybe go for a 3v3. I do think that the early 3v3 should be better between Sivir, Amumu, and Yuumi versus Draven, Soraka, and J4. As weird as that sounds. If they're able to make sure Draven drops axes, then he really can't do a whole lot.
And Soraka's healing also is like, I don't know, it's actually not that great early on. You can do things with it for sure, but it's not anything like a Zoomies that gives you the movement speed as well as the big chunk of healing. It is worth noting, however, that we've got a Jarvan starting up towards the top side with a leash from the Kled, so forfeiting a little bit of that early pressure they wanted to have with the Kled lane dominance, and instead going, hey, it's going to be that Jarvan gets to make it to the bot side earlier.
Yeah, that's interesting to see that. You don't typically see the top side leash. I'm not sure if Wokian's going to go straight into top or if he is going to go towards the mid bot for a full clear. But of note, Ewok and Wokian being IRL brothers should be a lot of synergy up towards that top side of the map. You figure that will help in their level of play. Just already having some kind of camaraderie between them, right? I guess depending on the relationship, might be a bullying relationship where Wokian just says, I'm not coming to your lane ever.
Maybe Ewok took his Pop-Tarts this morning and he's like, no ganks for you. That's it. He's already on the Raptors at this point, and so making his way further away from the brother that we assume slighted him over breakfast. He'll have the chance to hit that level 3 gank into the mid lane, and Slayer Virgins is opened up for this. Victor, stepping a little bit far forward, is under threat and has to flash the initial stun from Crowfeather. No Abscond hitting him today, but it is a very nice summoner to get so early on into the game. That'll be up at around 7 minutes.
Yeah, regardless, if you get a flash away from someone as J4 this early, even if you don't get a kill, you don't get a hit, maybe you get out-traded a little bit, take some damage, that's still a win on that trade because you got a 5-minute cooldown early on. You can easily re-gank that. You know, he can take his blue, he can take his Gromp and go right back to mid if he wants to, because it seems like Slayer isn't really respecting the fact that Wokian just came there. Still is pushing up quite a bit, has vision on I don't even think he has vision on the top side of the map either. So no real vision in the mid lane if Woking decides to go back there. On the bot side as well, we're kind of seeing some auto pushing coming from Moo22 and Pawn. And then real quick from our producers, we can get a drop down on the scoreboard and bring it back up just so we can refresh it. Thank you. We're looking at the CS difference from Draven already from out pushing like this, getting a lot of poke, keeping Jojo Mojo off of this wave, and just being able to keep the wave for himself.
Yeah, the health advantage that Sivir had gotten earlier has almost entirely disappeared because of the longsword 3-pot start that both these AD carries went with. Now Draven's just in a better position, and he's gotten a really nice lockup onto Cosmo Kramer. 2 more autos on this Yuumi, and she would have been dead. But as it is, Jojo Mojo's got no mana. This bot lane is getting less health by the second, and the jungler's here. Walking going to be able to make his way into the tri-brush, laying down a ward, making sure that Samumu does not interfere with the dominance of this Draven Soraka.
Yeah, this is looking really good, and with both ADCs out of mana, essentially, Draven has the upper hand. Sivir's very mana intensive. She doesn't get mana back off of blocking a spell anymore with that spell shield, and Draven's Axe is, what, 25 mana to proc? Plenty of that. Ewok, a little bit of trouble up top here, has the safety of tower, but will Lil Fizzy get a little frisky up there before he remounts?
He could. He's thinking about it, right?
He is.
I mean, Skarl's pretty far away, but we've got to imagine that Ewok's played this before. Remember, he's got that Ignite, where Fizzy does not, only having the teleport available, especially if Ewok can pull off this back, as he does, before he hits level 6, he'll have a really nice power spike with that Ignite and level 6 burst that he can use against Lil Fizzy should this Jack stay too long.
Yeah, I think Fizzy opting to just hold that wave where it was rather than push it in, go for a dive on Ewok is smart. Probably realized Ewok doesn't have that TP. He doesn't need to get super aggressive and potentially blow a lead and just instantly give a kill over to Ewok this early on. You definitely don't want that on Gnar. You want to make his life as hard as possible on the top side. Slayer may be in trouble here in the mid lane. Still no vision.
Again, Victor steps a little too far forward. This time doesn't have the flash, though. Is going to get stunned up, but gets the double stun with the gravity weld right back. No mana, but that is a high-value cooldown used by Slayer in the mid lane.
Definitely. Oh, and we'll have to dash away their Crow Feathers, maybe looking for a dive, has level 6. But the flag drag missing from Wokian, a little bit of a detriment to that kill, but Slayer, fancy footwork, moving around in the mid lane, able to get out scot-free and TP back to the wave. Doesn't miss a whole lot, is still up in CS as well. Flash should be back up in another minute and a half or so.
Taking a look down towards the bot side, I was just noticing that Jojo Mojo had gotten a really nice push going on. That, you know, while the waves are all in a relatively even state, that was the lane that we'd expect to blow up a little bit earlier. Now that we've got a skirmish in the top side, however, Ewok is opting into this, and he's got Walkian with him. Double knockup is available, but Fizzy jumps forward, and Ewok getting stunned, does not have a way out, flashes out, but Fizzy follows it up to pick up the first blood on the Jax.
A very nice first blood, just off screen. It was a little bit too bloody for you guys to witness there. He ends up going down. Ewok has to blow that flash. Again, doesn't have the TP to get back to lane, but Wokian still alive, able to hold his wave for him so that he doesn't lose too much off of it. Still a very nice gank there from Kronos. Like I said, doing a little bit of scouting, making sure he knows where Wokian is to be on the counter ganks, and that's exactly what he did right there. Very nice pickup for this Jax. First blood at 7 minutes.
Both junglers, well, that was a dumb way to say that. Both junglers were top side as well. And with that being at around the 7-minute mark, we're actually coming up on the point where we're going to have to choose between Dragon and Rift Herald likely, where those two objectives will be traded. For you get a kill on Lil Fizzy, now you've got this nice pressure. You're hoping that Dcim8 will be able to turn that into a little bit more. Do they opt for something like the Rift Herald to try and break the tower of Ewok first, or do they try and say, hey, you know what? Top lane's already going well, now we've got to get something going bot side.
I think you have to go for Rift Herald. Your bot lane is just in such a bad position right now. There's no prio down there at all. Moon may be pretty low, but he has Pawn behind him for the heals. Kronos is bot side. They are hovering around that Drake. Oh, Pawn taking some unnecessary damage.
He should be dead. Flashes the bandage toss and gets out alive. They don't know that Walkian is here, however, and Pawn was trying to bait them into the what would have been a 3 versus 4. But Kronos is wise to it, as are Jojo Mojo and Cosmo Kramer. So everybody will be fine here for the moment. It's another stall out, another lack of engage, but they do find pawn, and this time, well, never mind. I guess we stepped too far forward, and this time Walking and Crowfeather are like, we were just there, man. Like, what do we do?
He's like, how did that happen? Just walk out. And then after that, Crowfeather lost a lot of CS in the mid lane there for coming down for so long. He is going to trade into Slayer just a little bit with that combo, take him down to just under half health. Dragon is still up. Still nobody really having any priority over it. But as I was talking about earlier, that Rift Herald is probably the best play to make at right now.
Really is, and holy moly, Crowfeather could be making a difference. Solo Bolo in the mid lane. That was a really nice play from Crowfeather, and it's an advantage found just in time. We were talking about the Rift Herald, but with a kill in the mid lane, you can't go for it anymore, as Dcim8 and Dragons of the West get so much pressure with the winning bot lane. They already had to be able to take this dragon. It's an early advantage that cannot be answered back.
No, definitely not. That is just essentially a free dragon heading over into the hands of Dragons of the West. Ironically enough, I was going to talk about that Infernal Drake being, I think, a very important dragon early on here, just helping out both of these teams, because both teams are just wanting to skirmish, poke, and do damage this entire time. So whoever picks that up, now it being on Dragons, are going to have a much better time, especially in the bot lane. You look at the CS difference, 22 CS in favor of Mu222. Going to come back with a Sheen and a Vampiric Scepter. And you got to wonder how much trouble is Jojo Mojo in now with Mu22 coming back with such a strong lead and this Infernal Drake.
Not as much as Slayer is. Crowfeather jumps on him again, this time having the backup of Pawn. So Silence takes essentially 0 damage in an exchange that sends Slayer, we have to assume, right back to base. Doesn't have that teleport anymore, but also cannot afford to be stepping up for this cannon. Crowfeather, he was waiting for it. He knew, and Wakian knows as well. This is very spooky.
Pawn's hanging around here still, has the ultimate, and will be able to pop it if they go for a dive here. J4 going around the backside there. Wakian's looking for it. He is going to be spotted out on this ward, however. Slayer knows he's there, but will it be enough?
Not much that you can do right now. Gravity Well is good, and Wakian actually gets stunned up with the heals from Soraka. It's not even a 1-for-1. Chronos flashes in, but cannot get the ultimate lockdown onto Jarvan. Second bandage toss will connect onto Pawn, and it's going to be the ult again for this kill. 1-for-1 so far as Wakian flashes away, is burning down, and is going to tick to death. Kramer picks up the kill, and Jojo Mojo runs away with his life. A fight that actually ended up being okay for Dcim8 here.
Yeah, a slightly maybe just miscommunicated fight for sure, because Jojo Mojo was still back in the wave when Cosmo was going in with that ultimate and Kronos was Q flashing for the ultimate. Probably could have gone a little bit better for them if it was a little bit synced up more, but overall still a very nice play, puts them 700 gold in the lead. Mu222 has just been free farming, stacking up in the bot lane. Now, not sure what he's sitting on stack-wise at the moment, but you gotta imagine he is ready to cash in.
The last time I checked in, he had 250 stacks ready to go. So the fact that he's pushing up alone right now is a little bit worrying, especially because Jojo Mojo does always have that Yuumi with him. So there's the chance that this goes very wrong.
It's very dangerous. If you lose, what do you lose? Half of your stacks on death? So yeah. He'll be going down to about 160 if he dies right now to 3v2 in the bot lane. Pawn still has that ultimate as well.
They spot
Here
him.
Comes Wakian.
They saw him.
It's a full-on 3v3 in the bot. We'll see what happens, if anything. Colonel's gonna get sent away.
Wakian got spotted as well. So these junglers, they recognize that the other is here, and that, hey, 3v3, especially around Draven, isn't going to be any fun, because you risk losing your Draven passive stacks, and on the other side, you risk giving Draven his passive stacks. So nobody really wants to do it. We're going to continue, it seems like, giving over plates, because Jojo Mojo is forced to keep expending mana just to keep these waves from crashing into the tower.
Yeah, this game has been centered mainly around the mid game here. Pawn being a little bit of bait.
Does go pretty low, but ends up staying alive, thankfully. Wakian didn't get the engage on the back of that, though, so you do just have a weak Soraka afterwards. The nice thing is that with all of the lifesteal that Mu has, He's perfectly comfortable continuing to shove in the bot wave, and nothing's really changed about the game state. Nothing at all, because
No.
since that dragon went down, we don't really have anything to fight over until the next minute or so when the next one comes up.
Yeah, there's really no pressure anywhere at all. Like, everybody's just kind of keeping their waves frozen or slightly pushed, as we're seeing in the top side with Little Fizzy, who is still skirmishing with Ewok. Ewok does have the Iron Spike Whip, while we see Fizzy with a full Divine Sunderer and double cloth armor going for the plated steel caps. So he's going to be able to fight Ewok a little bit easier, but Ewok will still be able to just kind of cleave through him. He's not very tanky. If he lands a bear trap on a rope while Counter-Strike is down, he could easily win a trade, especially because he does have that Ignite still up that he hasn't really been able to use in his lane yet.
No, and I'm putting respect on Little Fizzy's name up in the top side, because remember, this was the top laner that was focused out last week that still won every lane on Ornn, that counterpicked the Jax into Kled matchup, the thing that Dragons of the West said they were super confident in, and has still been doing really well, has showed experience in this matchup. The Counter-Strike timings have been good. He's got a 30 CS lead, and now he's powering up his team to be able to take this dragon. This just spawned an already decimated in position.
Yeah, they gotta be careful. They do have Ewok behind with the ultimate available.
Pawn does get away for now, but the double bandage toss is just too much. Again, Soraka is the first to fall, and you know, if you've ever played on a team with Soraka, that's no longer a fight that you win. Dragons of the West have to give up this second Drake, and with all the resources they already committed to it, they're not getting anything for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was just no real vision around the map for them. Plenty of vision for Dcim8, however. Dragons unable to really secure themselves around that Drake, and Ewok, with the ultimate available, maybe was told not to go in. Was kind of just chilling in the mid lane. Had a nice flank angle, but was just a little bit too late. Dcim8 being able to get on that trigger a little bit earlier than Dragons, as Moo going in for a solo kill.
Oh god, Whirling Death comes out, but the additional damage is not enough for the moment.
Doesn't quite have 600 stacks yet to finish him off from that.
Yeah, right.
From that hell.
Approximately 1 million. Fizzy, however, is going 1v2 in the top side. It's actually working out for him. Ewok has to flash away. Last auto does it, and Jax picks up another kill. Might still be able to take down Crowfeather as well. Even if the ult gets stolen, Counter-Strike comes back up. Crowfeather tries to get away and ends up picking up the kill with the Kingslayer. It just barely works, but thank God that it does, because it keeps Dragons of the West in this game.
Lil Fizzy just missing that Counter-Strike, that Q coming in a little bit too late. Crowfeather taking full advantage of that with the Abscond Abduct, able to get the Empowered Auto to finish him off there. That could have been devastating. I mean, it still is. Fizzy almost 2v1 and didn't solely because of a misplay. But the fact that Crowfeather was able to stop a full-on 2v1, is now able to push down this tower, is really big for Dragons.
Petricite Burst doing the last of the work, and Slayer shows up a little too late. I wouldn't want to be stepping toe-to-toe with this 4-0 Sylas. The mismatch, I would say, of the composition. You know, when I was asking you in draft, I was like, I mean, how does the Sylas really fit in? What does he do here? And it turns out he does the most. This is really good stuff.
Yeah, Wokian definitely helping her out around that mid lane there. I was talking about it earlier. It was a very mid-game centered game. No real ganks coming in the bot. One in the top, but it was really just a 2v2. But that early start with Slayer having to blow that flash, Crowfeather has expended that lead very quickly. Little Fizzy.
Oh no. Oh no. I like where Pawn's head was at, but it did not go well for him. Cataclysm gets expended and Fizzy should go down. It's Moo that picks up the kill with the Whirling Death though, and that is way worse than anything else, giving Draven so much gold for that kill. He's got the extra confidence now. Wait till you see him after he's bought.
Yeah, Moo222 says, I'm not selling out, I'm cashing in. Finally claims what I believe is, around 400 stacks, maybe more, of those axes. We'll see what he comes back with. Already has the Eclipse with the Sheen intact. I can't wait for him to finish that back so we can see what he comes back with in terms of gold. He's 30 CS up. You know, he's behind Jojo Mojo in terms of kills and kill participation, but now gold should be definitely swayed in his side.
I mean, it's already swung the game. heavily into the not heavily, but heavily for one champion and one kill into the favor of Dragons of the West, right? To be able to go from being behind to being almost 1,000 gold ahead off the back of a single kill on your AD carry is pretty good. And 2 items complete, that's even better, man. Eclipse plus Essence Reaver is disgusting. And Moo, now I'd be afraid to fight. Now the team fights that were going Dcim8's way shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Definitely not. Off that back, he had the Eclipse with the Sheen and the Caulfield's Warhammer with just standard tier 1 boots. Comes back with the full Essence Reaver, the full Berserker's Greaves, and a Longsword. And now Slayer may be in trouble up top side. Probably shouldn't be up here right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, with Ewok able to outplay that nice stun, Gravity Well just isn't at the point where it's going to save you anymore. There's too much sticking power for Dragons of the West, and this was something we identified about the composition really early on. When you've got Kled, you've got Jarvan, and you've got Silas, all backed up by Soraka healing, there's nothing that's going to get people out of your face outside of this Amumu, and if you're not with the Amumu, you're going down. Kronos, fortunately, is in front of Jojo Mojo for now, but Wokian isn't taking that much damage as Kronos goes forward. Crowfeather also goes forward, locking down and taken out this Sivir with the Amumu ultimate right back.
Yeah, that Yuumi ult looked really, really good, able to stop them in their tracks. Unfortunately, nobody could really follow up off of Wokian's ultimate. Moo222 almost died 3 times during that fight, but Pawn being able to just sit back and constantly heal, and that is why he's sitting on maybe double-digit health right now and forced to back. Pawn on this Soraka really coming in clutch for the team.
Not even close. That's what you say.
Not even close, baby.
throw that in the chat. Nice try, guys. Slayer version. Let's see. That's one auto that did, I'm not going to say a quarter of his health, but maybe
I was going to say 25%, maybe 20%. I'll say that. It looked about 25%, but that Cosmo Kramer with the heal plus shield maybe made it look more than that. This dragon should be uncontested and free into the hands of Dragons of the West. 8-8 is your kill count right now, dead even in that part, but they have pulled ahead on one Drake, about 2k gold in their favor, and of course, the 2 towers in the game that have been taken down are on Dcim8's side. So already cracked open in the top and the bot. Right now, Dragons looking very, very solid into the mid game right now. 13 stacks onto a completed Medjai's of Crowfeather. This Silas can only get scarier.
And it's weird to be looking at a game state that's developed like this as well, because we expected this to be a very snowball-y game, one with a lot of kills, I dare say, especially in like the Jax and Kled lane where Kled took Ignite, but that's actually been relatively calm so far. It's been these big swings in gold off of the team fights around the dragon, around these small little picks in the mid lane where Moo was able to pick up his kill, finally cashing the adoration stacks, that has really changed the state of this game from one where Dcim8's macro was basically single-handedly choking out Dragons of the West to now one where it's so much harder to play that macro game because you're doing it into a 5-0 Silas and into a 2, almost 3 item Draven.
Right, yeah, Draven obviously sitting on that last Whisper. Going to be picking up LDR, 3rd item, I would imagine. Very, very strong. 200 CS right now, only just above Lil Fizzy in the top side there. And speaking of Lil Fizzy, we might be seeing a dive onto Ewok potentially as Sivir, Amumu, and Yuumi roaming up there, potentially positioning around Baron. Not sure what the move is there, and letting Slayer sit against Crowfeather here, but Wokian may be in trouble.
Nice splash out, but Kronos commits again. Final chapter gets used, but this isn't going to turn into a kill. Instead, it's double bandage toss plus the ultimate that doesn't end up netting you anything but a ultimately healable amount of damage on Wokian. Nobody loses any presence for Dragons of the West, and Ewok's been able to stay up, keeping his turret in the same position so far. But now, with him being forced to take a reset, the longer this game goes on, the more chance there is that Slayer Versions ends up picking up those next couple items, that Fizzy and Jojo Mojo end up doing the same thing, and that Dcim8 are once again able to retake this game. Dragons of the West have an advantage, but they gotta keep pressing it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big thing, is being ahead doesn't mean anything if you're not constantly trying to end the game and looking for picks and kills and being able to take out these objectives. Little Fizzy was just able to take out a top lane tower. Really shouldn't be happening at all. You should be seeing some aggression go up there. Instead, you're letting all these lanes go one-on-one. Slayer.
Oh, He can't get out here, actually. There's no way they let him do it. Silence comes through, and Crowfeather picks up the kill. Had Slayer gotten away, it would have been massive. But the fact that he didn't, you know, that's a good thing. It keeps Dragons of the West in the game for now. Especially them trying to push up. Moo pushed up maybe a little too far. Does get that teleport in and now takes to the front lines. Autos Chronos just to let him know that he is in fact still in charge. But we'll see if he ends up getting caught by that bandage toss if Dcim8 even choose to fight here. Looks like the answer is no. They've only got about a minute 30 until this next dragon comes up. And as Dcim8, I'd start thinking about fighting that for sure.
Yeah, I can't tell if Kronos went in too early or too late on that fight there. By the time he was walking in, he kind of walked in slow. Moose saw him coming around the corner, was spotted by minions, was able to just sit behind his minions so that Amumu couldn't land a bandage toss onto him. And now bot side Fizzy getting the TP.
Nice ultimate from Crowfeather, stolen away. That Curse of the Sad Mummy does a lot of work, but Fizzy's all over Pawn, almost taking him out as Moo cashes in even more Adoration stacks for another kill. Slayer is definitely going down here, and instead of losing just the one, it's two for the price of, as Slayer expended that teleport only to die right next to his top laner. Both solos down. This is bad for Dcim8.
Yeah, I can only ask, why are they sending Slayer into the wrong lanes? I don't think there's a reason that Slayer shouldn't be sitting in the mid lane just to be safe. And now a fight in the mid lane.
Nice final chapter from Kramer. Actually saves his AD carry for a moment and long enough to be able to hightail it back to base. The health bars are relatively low for Pawn and Ewok, but they're high enough that they're going to be able to reset and stake their claim over this dragon. Slayer has respawned, but with all the gold that's just funneled into Dragons of the West again, with the fact that they're now 5,000, maybe even a little more up, you're likely giving over this third dragon, and you're risking it all for Soul Point.
Yeah, I don't think that you can contest this. They're going to take this right off of spawn. Probably be about 10 seconds by the time it's gone here, maybe 25, 35. Baron is up. You can at least move up and get some vision around that to try to stop it. But I don't think you can really contest it if they go for it.
Is that basil on pizza delivery sivers?
I think it is. I can't tell if it's basil or like jalapenos or something.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out as well. I was like, surely it's not spinach, right? Nobody does that. And
I do it. I like spinach on my pizza. I'm not crazy.
Nobody starts the Baron now. Not when Dragons of the West are here. It's at 4,000 and Walk-in's in the pit. He's gotten a little bit early though, and he's gonna get melted. Now you have to finish the Baron, and you end up taking it, Dcim8.
Wow.
What? First the basil on pizza, now this. Dragons of the West have got to be furious.
That is such a strange take. Like, if you're Dcim8, I have to imagine you say, all right, we're going for Baron, and you think there's just no way we can take it. And then you take it for free. And now you can't necessarily win the game off of that, but you can definitely stop Dragons from winning off of that. And now a nice pushback coming in here from Jojo Mojo and Chronos.
Oh, again, the bandage toss finds Pawn. I swear, Chronos just has those as a point and click with 2 kills now going down, and Moo giving over the shutdown to Slayer. We've got the Baron push, we've got everyone up, we've got the staggered resets. Dcim8, they're going to be able to knock down a second turret in just a few moments, and they've gotten themselves right back into this game off of an insane Baron call.
That is a big turnoff for Dcim8. Ewok trying to back right in the face and ends up getting it canceled instead of just walking away. This might even be an inhib tower. Maybe even an inhib if they stay for a little bit longer. They don't have but 10 seconds left on Moo. They're taking the inhib. They're going to back off. This may be a bit of a misplay by them taking the actual inhib. I don't know that they can end the game after another fight. So what's just going to happen for the next couple minutes here is we're just going to see Baron empowered super minions funneled into the mid lane and just given as gold over to Dragons of the West. So unless they can turn something around, that inhib should be back up, I think, by the time Dragon comes up. So it shouldn't be that much of an issue for Dragons. But Dcim8 definitely getting some gold into their pockets here. Now a lead of about 400 gold to them. Kills are still dead even, however.
I like the assignment of the solo laners into these side lanes for now. Crowfeather, however, does know that he hasn't lost any momentum. He can still kill Slayer, and so the vision game has to be on point, and Cosmo Kramer unfortunately didn't place a ward in time. Cataclysm comes in, Slayer's forced to flash, your Yuumi is already gone, and Ewok says, hey Slayer, how about you get out of your own jungle? Because I know you guys just won that fight, but now we've got everyone. The game state has shifted, but it hasn't shifted enough yet that Dcim8 are actually comfortable in their own territory.
No, definitely not. And we saw Wokian with a very smart ultimate on to Slayer to make sure that Cosmo was blocked out from jumping onto him. If he ulted the Yuumi would have been able to just get out pretty quickly. So being able to secure the kill in that regard, very smart play. Just saw Jojo Mojo go over to the top side, pick up a blue buff for himself. Doesn't want to give that over to Slayer, I guess, on the mid lane. Just keep it for himself, be able to keep poking down these waves, keep on wave clearing with the help of those abilities.
Now remember before the game, Fury, the thing that we called out was that you're not really that tanky on Dcim8 until you hit around 3 items. And now's the time where we've got to start worrying about that, because Fizzy, he's just cracked 3 items. This Jax is now unkillable and definitely going to kill you. Same thing can almost be said for Kronos. Well, he's not as aggressive. Once he hits that 3rd item, he's also going to be taking very little damage, especially from the likes of Mu with all of this armor. Slayer is coming up on his 3rd item, and Jojo Mojo's already got his with an impressive amount of farm on the Sivir, and a chance to turn this game around for Dcim8.
Definitely. My only issue is, yes, they do have a lot of the CS. They're picking up these items, but they're not doing a whole lot with it. Obviously, like, they got a really big pick off of that Baron, but so far that's really been their biggest play. Dragon will be up in 30 seconds. We'll see if they'll be able to actually take it while Lil Fizzy is pushing in the top side. He hasn't touched that second tower top since he took the first one. No one's really playing around. I would like to see them push up mid with that open inhib that they have, so that Little Fizzy can really start doing what Jax is supposed to do, and that's just constantly taking towers away, right? I mean, their bot lane isn't even cracked open. You can send Little Fizzy down there if you want to send the rest of your team mid and top. But Jax needs to be able to do Jax things, and now here comes a TP.
He's doing them. Teleport coming in. This is answered by Crowfeather. The 7 and Osiris arrives, but it's a little bit late. Ewok already in the midst of the fight is walking, is forced to flash away. Slayer gets taken down, and Jojo Mojo fails to flash over the wall. He's instantly jumped on and shut down, but AD carry for AD carry does not matter anymore. Now it's about Little Fizzy in the 1v4. He picks up the answering kill, but it isn't nearly enough as 3 members still stand for Dragons of the West, and now they have a dragon soul to guide them.
Minions are taking down turrets. We are going to have to see Ewok take it back, but how scary is Crowfeathers on this Sylas? 25 stacks, nearly full build now on Sylas here. 9, 0, and 4, and Ewok did so much damage in that fight. So much heal cut with all the bear trap and ropes landing. Despite Mu and Pawn dying, they only died because they sent everybody after them. They weren't really focusing down the main damage dealers. I mean, it's smart to take out Soraka for sure, but when you have so much AoE, like Feathers, like Ewok on you, doing that much damage, you can't ignore that. And when that happens, Crowfeather was freely able to dash around. I mean, he came out of that almost full health when he cleared out Kronos when he was in the Dragon Pit. So that just speaks volumes to how Dragons of the West are playing this game in the team fights themselves. We'll see what happens in the next, I imagine, 30 seconds to a minute here when Baron's up.
Already critting for 1,000 damage. Mu is ready to party. You talked about the health bar of Crow. I think it's worth pointing out that Dragons of the West also have done a really good job of making use of the Gorge Drinkers. Walk-in and Ewok both being able to sit in the middle of the fight for a few seconds, pop that, and then be able to get out is a really big turning point. It's not allowing Dcim8 to forget about these frontliners, and it's making this doubly, triply difficult for things like the Sivir and the Victor to survive and be able to output damage from where they're comfortable. Now, though, Dcim8 do have vision supremacy in the river, and they're setting up a play. Can this work? Because I think Fury, it's got to be their last shot.
I would imagine it is for both of these teams. I mean, look at the gold difference in the mid lane. It's about 4K there, 3 in the bot, and now we're seeing a fight open up.
Chronos,
an immediate pick.
Double ultimate from Chronos does not catch Mooj. Raven is free to auto, and auto he does. Jojo, Mojo, and Chrono both going down. And with Fizzy in the front lines, Dcim8's scary, but it's not scary enough. Not into this composition. Fizzy gets the stun onto Pawn, but this time the Soraka will stay alive. With the cat taken down as an afterthought, it's only Slayer left. The first kill of this game in the mid lane, now likely going to be the last if Dragons of the West can pick him up. Already, Flash still available, not going to be able to use it this time, and we're going to watch the Nexus Towers go down because Dragons of the West just took down Dcim8 Legacy.
In 34 minutes in what was a very back-to-back game, which maybe shouldn't have been as back-to-back as it was, still nicely played by both teams. I will say I do like the draft of Dragons more. I think that really helped them in this game. I think the pickup of the J4, getting Silas a very nice lead early on over Slayer, blowing that early flash is huge. I don't think Crowfeather really acknowledged that J4 was there. Probably should have played back a little bit farther. I don't think the draft necessarily needs to change. I think the way they play the draft has to change because that could have easily been Dcim8's game.
It certainly could have, because like you said, their draft actually wasn't that bad, but I think that Dragons of the West did a really good job of capitalizing on the small things that they got to choose. You remember that Kled matchup that Dragons of the West said, we're blind picking this Kled?
Right.
Dcim8 won that, right? They were able to counterpick. They actually did that really effectively. But Dragons of the West got two crucial counter picks. Draven in the bot lane over the Sivir that did not really let her play the game throughout the entire laning phase, and the Jarvan against the Amumu that had so much more agency to set up plays in the mid lane. Those two things, winning bot and mid off of two counter picks, was so valuable.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Jarvan sitting mid was just a big thing. I think that game was played primarily around the mid lane. I would have liked to see maybe a Mumu go bot a little bit more. He hanged around top and the mid lane quite a bit, but their bot lane just couldn't get there because of how far behind Sivir and Yuumi were.
Yeah, and I will say, really nice job from Dcim8 outside of these big injections of gold to be able to make use of what was a really cool game to watch, because their macro was actually quite nice throughout the first little while. Remember, they ended up being the ones that did get these really nice picks in the bot lane that got that Amumu rolling early on, that picked off the Soraka. Pawn was having a really difficult time, but as Dragons of the West continual just oppressive injections of gold on this Draven and really nice coordinated plays around major objectives that kept them in it. We'll see if Dcim8 can turn things around or if they'll end up going down 2-0. Only one way to find out, however, and that is to take a short break before we pop into game 2. Welcome back to Blue Otter Diamond, folks. I'm Dia. I got Fury next to me. I did point the right direction, and we're going in the right direction because we have actually had some pretty good games today. Well, game today. I actually really liked the way the Dragons of the West and Dcim8 went, and moreover, Fury, I didn't feel like either of these teams were lost during our first game. I felt like they both had a really nice strat behind them. They both got to execute it. But that Draven Gold, that Silas in the mid lane, was just a little too much for Dcim8.
Yeah, I think in game one, Dcim8 probably could have done a little bit better with the way that they were playing the game, but just ended up not doing too well on it. If they just pull it back together, they should be able to pull this out for themselves. Like I said, I don't think the draft was an issue. I think just the way they played it, their macro was a little bit iffy.
Yeah, certainly they've got, well, time to rectify that. One of the things that we had expected from the Dcim8 draft is that they wanted to play a little bit for a later game, and so the fact that during their mid game things got a little bit stalled out, Dragons of the West were able to take some plays is understandable, if not ideal, right? And we're still getting going in the first 2 weeks. We're still figuring out what these teams like to play like, and one of the things that Dcim8 had identified about themselves last week was that they want to play for these later games, these scaling team comps with the Amumu, with the Yasuo that we had last time, Victor that we had this time. Things didn't go as well for them, however, and Dragons of the West actually did have a really good late game plan themselves. I like the way they used things like the Kled, the Jarvan, and the Silas to basically make the carries' lives unplayable.
Yeah, I mean, they just couldn't play the game at all. Like I said, there was nothing that they could do about it. It was really hard for them to get onto the backline to kill Draven. Soraka was just too much of a menace, able to constantly heal this Draven. I think my video was lagging so much too.
It's like slideshow. Look at the next slide of Fury.
Yeah, I think
right?
my computer is just starting to run stuff in the background that it doesn't need to. That'll fix itself in a bit. But yeah, Draven was basically free hitting until he wasn't. But even when he wasn't able to free hit anymore and was constantly getting taken out, Silas was still there to do so much damage. You know, sitting at, going from 9 stacks on a Dark Seal to 25 stacks on a completed Medjai's by the end of the game. Unkillable and just able to do whatever he wants the entire game. And it looked very, very clean. I'll be surprised if that isn't banned out this game.
Yeah, I'd really like to see, like you're talking about, the Silas banned out. This is clearly something that Dragons of the West are super comfortable with. Crowfeather looked really good on. I'd also like to see Dcim8 pick up a jungler with a little bit more agency, because I think that a lot of their problems stemmed from not being able to take fights confidently in the jungle. When Silas Jarvan goes up against Victor Amumu, Silas Jarvan wins. When they go up against, honestly, most other things, when Jarvan is involved in an early game fight, things go well for him. And so I'd really appreciate seeing something like a Trundle, perhaps, a common skirmisher in the jungle, to give Dcim8 a little bit more presence, to let them lay down vision so that laners don't just get away with things, and hopefully be able to use their draft that way. Speaking of draft, though, we're into it. Right now, it isn't looking a whole lot different than it did last game.
It's really not. Essentially the same bans coming through already. We'll see if Dcim8 change anything on the bans at all, or anything that they are drafting. I'd be surprised if they don't. If they keep it the same, I guess it's okay. It's just more what they're worried about. I mean, like I said, last game didn't look too terrible. If they keep the same bans, I don't think they necessarily have to ban anything away from Dragons of the West after last game.
Interesting.
Maybe Silas. And I would think that's it. I'm interested in the Sivir ban. Surprised on that.
The Sivir ban and the Taric takeaway, if I'm not mistaken. This is, I mean, still a very nice pick for Dragons of the West. Does go really well with Nyla if you're thinking about it. If any of you at home are considering and you're like, I love playing with Nyla, but I don't know what to play, Taric's really good. Dragons of the West, if you're listening, consider it, because it'd be pretty cool. But I don't mind this first pick either, because, hey, Veigar, if you're trying to counter immortality on a timer, just kill them before the timer, you know?
There you go. Soraka taken away, though. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do with it.
Is this
they
a
could
bot
just put
lane?
Veigar in the bot lane, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it could be Veigar, Soraka bot lane. That'd be such a weird pick. but it definitely could be the play for them. I just want to see what Dragons pick up here. They could pick the Vel'Koz, because Dcim8 did play Vel'Koz Taric last week. It'd be funny to watch
That's
play,
a real.
excuse me, Nocturne second pick.
I like the Nocturne here. You see, honestly, whether Veigar's going bot lane or not, and I suspect he might be, you see Nocturne and you go, well, my life is over, because Veigar needs to be in the back, and
Yeah.
even if he's not being jumped on, Soraka's being jumped on. So you now have two people on Dcim8 who just will straight up not be having a good time. With a Kaisa as well, we are doubling down on dive. I'd be surprised if these next two picks aren't also something like, maybe not the Kled, but just dive.
Volibear, maybe they go
Yeah.
Volibear top. They can go Trundle top if they want to go Trundle.
Ban
Fizzy
Silas now.
does play it, as far as I'm aware. He also plays the Wukong. Camille is still up if they want to go for that. Also plays Mordekaiser. Couple really scary champions. He played the Mordekaiser last week too. Did very well on it. Dcim8 actually going to counter that and go the Volibear themselves.
Okay, I actually really wouldn't mind a Mordekaiser here. Give you a little bit more of a front line, a skirmisher that can isolate these 1v1s if you do have anything particularly tricky that's making it difficult to dive. Volibear is a good answer though, but our focus still does shift up towards this top side. We know more or less what's going to be going down across the rest of the map, but we need something that really pulls Dragons of the West and Dcim8 together, because Dcim8 right now have a really strong backline, a middling front line, and some healing, and Dragons of the West basically have go buttons, but they don't really. You need a core here.
Yeah, Ewok can pick Mordekaiser. You could do Gragas if he wants to do Gragas to set up
Gragas
the Kaisa
banned.
dive. Gragas is banned. You're right, I didn't see that. So no Gragas. Can still go the Wukong, which is definitely still a scary play. It's like Darius. Darius Volibear is still a flex. You can still Darius jungle if you really want to. I don't think it'll be happening in this game, but blind picking Darius is an iffy pick.
I don't know about the Darius. I'm a little nervous about the Darius, is what I'm going to say, because this does feel a lot like last game, where you
Olaf.
just really need to win the game. Or sorry, you really need to win the lane. Olaf, similar pick, but I like it a lot more than the Darius.
Yeah, I think you can blind pick Olaf a little bit better than you can blind pick Darius. Still don't like it in general. As a blind pick, I think you got to pick something safer that can run with the team. And it looks like Mundo being hovered here for Dragons of the West.
Okay. Still somebody who's going to be really good at walking through the rest of the team and saying, I don't care about your peel. I will say there's not really a whole lot of peel. Dcim8 really only have the cage to worry about. So things are going to be difficult because they don't have another source of CC. A Mumu is still available, but if you pick a Mumu, we already saw the problem that you encounter.
Yeah, I mean, where are they going to put him as well, right? Like, you kind of have this Volibear Olaf that you already have up. You kind of have to go jungle top with that, and you're saving the mid counter pick for the Silas that was just picked up. Did Dragons of the West just pick an all purple team on purpose?
That actually might have happened. That might
is that what they did?
But
let's pick all purple champions.
We were saying that Silas was going to be really good, and the Mundo was banned away. So I'm like 50-50 on whether they did it on purpose or not. It is really cool, and I hope they do the base skins just to keep it that way. Nyla, picked up by the opposite side, is
I'm surprised on that. I don't like. I mean, Nyla Soraka definitely works. But I'm surprised Dragons of the West didn't pick it. I'd be surprised if Dragons of the West didn't pick it simply so they can run with the purple team. They hovered the Nyla. They did. Like, they were planning on going, and they swapped to the Kaisa. I mean, can it just be for dive? Sure. But is it for the meme? Maybe.
Maybe. I really like Nyla here, honestly. Like, because your options are pick Nyla. Or grab an AD carry who's going to get dove and insta-killed. IMO.
Or keep Veigar bot lane, not really have to worry about getting dove because you have the baby cage, and then you put someone else mid.
Who do you put mid though? Just like what do you do? You grab like a Victor? He's just gonna get dove. He's
you can go safe. You can go Galio if you're putting carries everywhere else. You know, you have Olaf in the top lane. He's looking to be a carry. You're going to have Viger on the bot lane to be a carry. If you
Yeah.
want someone to be safe and play the anti-dive, you go Galio. And then that way he can just jump on the dive with ultimate from across the map.
Am I to understand here that you don't like the Nyla?
It's not that I don't like the Nyla. I think
It's that
there's
there are
better
other
picks.
options. Yeah,
I think there's better picks. I think now the Soraka is going to work very well in the bot lane. Don't get me wrong. I think it works fine. It's just into the dive comp, I would have liked the Vigar in the bot lane because if Soraka gets dove on, what is she going to do?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think you dive Nyla. I think you dive to kill the Soraka in the bot lane. That way she can't heal for the rest of the fight. If Volibear's around and he's a step too late, if Olaf's a little bit too late on a TP, if he even goes TP, then it's going to be hard for them to counter the dive comp that they know was coming since Nocturne was picked in second pick.
Yeah. Let's think about this in a bit of a different way as well, because, we're talking about the team fight, but team fight was something that happened way later than when the game felt decided last game, because it was so much about the laning phase. So if we whittle it down to the lanes, we actually like Nyla Soraka. That's not going to be bad. Olaf into Mundo, how are we feeling about that?
The Olaf into Mundo, I think, is okay. If he can get on top of Mundo, then it's fine. If Mundo is able to just sit back and just kind of play it safe, constantly throw cleavers, use E to wave clear, he should be fine. But any kind of gank that's going to come through early anyway, I'll say pre-6, is going to be really good for Dcim8. If they can get Volibear up there early, then Mundo's not going to have much of an escape. He's not going to have R to heal. He's not going to have Flash after the second time you gank, because he's probably going to have to Flash the first time if he pushes up too far. It's all about taking advantage of a misstep that's going to happen in the top lane. And if you can do that, then great. You can escalate a nice lead on Olaf. Only problem is he's going to fall off like a semi going over a cliff in comparison to Dr. Mundo. 25 minutes. As soon as Mundo gets an item and a half, 2 items under his belt, then he's just going to essentially be unkillable. This is another game for Dcim8 where there's not a whole lot of DPS just in the kits. It's a lot of burst. Olaf is going to provide a lot of that. Nyla is going to provide a lot of that. But are they going to be able to just run through Mundo when you have Silas doing damage? You have Nocturne going onto your backline. You have Kaisa, who's going to be able to dash to the backline. And Tarek, who's just going to push R. I worry for Dcim8's draft. More so than I did in the last game.
I think they have some really nice mid-game strengths. You hit that one item, you hit the first dragon. I could see a world where Dragons of the West do dive in and Dcim8's Olaf and Volibear go, well, we're Olaf and Volibear and we're just going to kill you all as you try and get to our carries. But the later the game goes, the better Dragons of the West start feeling. And the worse, weirdly, the team with Veigar starts to feel. The less room for error they actually have. I'm looking at Veigar, I'm looking at Nyla, because those are going to be the two champions, the two players that are going to determine Dcim8's legacy in this series. For that, we're going to be looking at Jojo Mojo and Lil Fizzy. And, Jojo Mojo and Slayer in the mid lane. So position's confusing. And with that in mind, I think it's time that we take a short break before we pop into the game. Let's do it, Fury.
Yeah, let's see you guys in a little bit.
Welcome back, folks, to BOL Diamond. Dia and Fury are ready now to take you into game number 2 of Dragons of the West versus Dcim8. Dragons of the West up 1 game. Fury, let's find out if they can close it out here, or if Dcim8 with their Nyla, Soraka, Vigar, living on a prayer composition can take this one to game 3.
And we'll see how it works out for them. We were, during the break, kind of bringing up a couple other factors that Dragons have in their favor. This Sylas being able to take a Volibear ult to help heighten a dive, or even just take the Vigar ult. We're seeing a little bit of a maybe early fight coming through. Fizzy popping that ghost. Gets the flash from Moo, but will it really do anything? I don't know if we're going to see Kronos come bot lane at all, and I don't know that Nyla and Soraka are going to get the jump on Kai'Sa and Taric to where that flash is really going to matter early on. However, a 5-minute cooldown is a 5-minute cooldown. I really just want to see Dcim8 take advantage of that.
Yeah, this is a good start, and as little as we'd expected there to be prioritization of this bot lane. Now you've got this target on your back, and Kronos is going to be starting bot, probably not ganking for a little while, but there's a chance that, you know, we get that second clear going, we get a skirmish going. Maybe we see this start to impact the lane, but with Exhaust and actually Ghost picked up by Jojo Mojo as well, we'll see if this Nyla Soraka can dance around the bot lane to a deadly effectiveness. My equal curiosity being in this mid lane, where Crowfeather really just took the hammer to Slayer versions last game, and I'm worried about it becoming the same thing this time, because Vigar and Victor, they don't play that different.
Yeah, I don't think that Sylas has too hard a time into the Vigar, really, although a lot of really good poke coming out there from Slayer. It's just, Crowfeather looked very comfortable on the Sylas. I'm just very, very surprised that it wasn't banned coming into this second game. I guess they just had maybe their thoughts that he either wasn't going to play it, or that they had a good time playing into it on a different champion. But that is left to be seen from Slayer here on this Vigar. Well, we'll see how it comes into later on in the game. A big thing as well, Fizzy did have to blow that ghost. It's going to make it a little bit harder for him to chase down Ewok early on in the levels, as I was talking about. That really helps him get those kills pre-6. Without that ghost now early, it's going to be hard for him to pick up those kills. A lot of poke in the bot lane. Here comes Kronos.
Check out this nasty Volibear flank. He is just taken such a long way around, and well, we know Moo doesn't have flash. Jojo Mojo's already all over it, and on this Nyla, there's really no escape. Kai'Sa cannot get out of here, and a flash forward gets Nyla first blood. Jojo Mojo now chasing down Wokian, and we were worried. We said we have to capitalize on this, Kai'Sa. You've done so, and now your Nyla is off to the races. That was pretty cool. Nice job, Kronos.
That is exactly what I wanted to see from Kronos. That was just a great, great play. Allowing Moo and Pawn to shove in that wave, get under tower, and letting Kronos get behind. Very weird word placements coming from Moo and Pawn, not warding that Tri-Brush first, but a very, very solid play nonetheless from Kronos. They pick up a great kill in the bot lane, capitalizing off of the no flash on the Kai'Sa, coming back with just a longsword now, no pots.
Pawn ultimately able to dodge out on a lot of the skill shots that Slayer was throwing down. A little bit of a late rotation from this Vigar, but nothing really to worry about for the moment. With that being a really nice play, Jojo Mojo getting stunned up is a little bit worrying, but ignited, he is right now all the way out again. He gets all the healing that he could possibly need, and Kronos is setting up another gank in the top side. This one, however, was spotted. Ewok knows this was coming, and we've got to imagine that he gets out alive.
Ewok, I don't think, had a flash there. He's got that spell shield that would have stopped any kind of stun that would have come from Kronos right there, but maybe just a little bit playing it safe, making sure that he doesn't get slowed on top of it. So still a very nice flash up top that is now down. Kronos could take advantage of that on a regank. And now Crowfeather's setting up a little bit of a recall setup here, potentially with 2 waves crashing into Slayer's tower.
It was a good way to capitalize on the earlier roam from Slayer down to the bot side, and he's able to make his own up to the top. Fizzy's
Let's
in a
see
lot of
top.
trouble, does not have the teleport to get back to lane should he go down here, but there's a lane teleporting to him as Slayer says, I am going to be everywhere, and Kronos is ready as well. It's a 3 versus 2 at the moment. Kronos is ready to fight, gets that shield, can't find the stun. We're going to end up calling it even. Small gentleman's agreement and a handshake, as that was a teleport expended by Slayer, and now a nice reset that Crowfeather gets.
Yeah, couple flashes being used there. Crowfeather forced to use that flash, as was Lil Fizzy. Meanwhile, in the bot side, we're seeing Pawn having to use his flash, and Cosmo Kramer using exhaust off maybe a little scuffle that was happening down here while that happened.
Now, since we've got the Soraka continuing to heal folks up, the relatively short range of the Nyla isn't really mattering nearly as much as you might expect it to be. However, with the stun coming through, Moo is going to be able to find a nice chunk of damage. Ignite not quite back up yet, so you've still got a lot of consistent damage that isn't being stopped by any means. And bot lane's still pretty comfortable. I like that skirmish for most lanes, but Moo and Pawn just couldn't really do anything there.
Yeah, Jojo Mojo, even on no mana, still pretty much being able to out-trade Moo and Pawn there with the help of Cosmo, keeping him healed up. Now in the mid lane, Kronos hovering around the mid lane, getting a nice bait.
Is this the same Kronos? We've seen him capitalize on 2 different lanes already. The same guy that played a Mumu last game is now on Volibear, ganking 3 lanes by 6 minutes, making impact all over the map, and has honestly done wonders for his team. Down on the bot side, however, things are looking fishy as Wokian wants to get involved with some kills. Cosmo Kramer does not get tagged, but the flash forward still stuns him up. Flash away is not nearly enough to save the Soraka's life. The kill is answered back. Wokian picking it up.
Yeah, Cosmo with a very nice flash to the other side of Wokian. Wokian we saw trying to go in front of Cosmo so that he would be feared back into his team. Cosmo flashes to the other side so he gets feared towards his tower. Very nice use of that, however, it wasn't enough, and now Crow maybe in trouble here. Dodging everything, though.
Exactly. Like it was like a who's in trouble, who's trapped in here with who in that cage. But as soon as Olaf shows up, he does have to back out. Nice blue suedes that he had on during that gank, however, is the only thing between him and his death. But fortunately, with that little bit of pressure that Crowfeather was able to absorb, Dragon goes over, and Dragons the West continue accumulating advantages. They're in the lead right now, despite the early first blood that was given to Nyla.
Yeah, 700 gold in their favor, and now a Dragon Ewok able to pick up a plate in the top side while Lil Fizzy was roaming down into the mid lane. Slayer doing a really good job of kind of baiting out Crowfeather to go for these fights while his jungler or while his top lane are sitting around the top of the mid there to be able to get a 2v1. Haven't really gotten anything from it though. Crowfeather used the ultimate, steal Kronos's, but that wasn't a whole lot in the long run. He's about to have his flash up again in about a minute and a half or so. Still has TP. Now Kronos waiting on the bot side of the map here. Probably not the optimal timing for it because this wave is pushing very hard. They're kind of banking on Moo and Pawn to start hard pushing this wave.
They're going to have no choice with this cannon showing up, and as long as Jojo Mojo actually lets this happen, it should go down pretty easily. Level 6, close to for Kronos. Jojo Mojo, there we go.
It is.
Still has his level 6 as well, and this is the makings of a dive. You can now let this push out to you, or just throw yourself at the bodies of Moo and Pawn underneath the tower who do not have the level 6 themselves. It looks like it's going to be the second one, if anything, but Kronos is hesitant. And right now, wants to back off. Dazzle's come out, and Wokian, like you said, coming down. He's got level 6 as well. There goes the ultimate. The counter gank is already here. It wasn't prepared earlier, and now the healing comes through from the Nyla. There's no ult for Pawn, but Moo is still alive! The last auto from Kronos claims the first kill of this skirmish, and a double goes over to him for this work in the bot side.
Massive play. Now Slayer on the bot side. Woking to get taken down by that ultimate from Slayer. Altogether 3 for 0 and some plates in the bot side now. Very, very nicely done from Dcim8 Legacy here to pull themselves back ahead in this fight. Now up about 1,000 gold. Unfortunately, no objectives on the bot lane for them to pick up. No dragons. They could make their way up to that Rift Herald, but that would be quite a bit of time that they're wasting for that.
So well done, though, to be able to capitalize on what I think Dragons of the West thought was a play that they were making. Their pillar of hope, however, still is in this mid lane, where Crowfeather's doing really well. He's up almost 20 CS, and he's gotten the plates. Ewok actually taking a nice trade on the top side as well. Crowfeather's also expended the flash to get out of the most recent gank, so we'll see what ends up coming of that. Fizzy, can he dodge? Can he dodge? Can he dodge? Can he dodge? He cannot dodge an auto.
That kill was brought to you by Ewok365, who actually subscribed in Prime not too long ago.
Nice. Thank you,
appreciate his subscription while also playing in the league at the same time. So picks up a nice solo kill into Little Fizzy, who steps up a little bit too far. This is what I was talking about, that after level 6, it's going to be hard to kill Mundo. This is even before he has a full items. He got Bramble and Bammies with a couple off armors under his belt. Lil Fizzy with a Vamp Scepter going for that Bork first item with the plated steel caps. But Ewok already now quite a bit ahead after picking up some plates and now a solo kill on top.
Chrono wants that gank in the mid lane so bad. He has been sitting right next to Slayer for like the past 60 to 90 seconds. He's finally backed off into his own jungle. That, by the way, he's splitting with Fizzy, who's like, I can't believe I'm losing this top side right now. Butterdeer's been popped down towards the bot lane, but there's not much that's expected to come of this. A nice stun even answered by Pawn. Silence not going to lock him up, but the ult still takes him down. Slayer picks up his second kill of the game, and for as well as the wave is being managed, Crowfeather is struggling to keep up with this Veigar.
Yeah, that was literally just Sorkshoe's Amptome Veigar that just got that kill. So Crowfeather needs to be careful. Slayer's gotten 2 kills now, both on Pawn in the bot lane here, and is just getting free gold. Now has going to come back with that lost chapter. Still has the unbroken stopwatch under his belt. Crowfeather is significantly ahead in CS, as is Wakian, but it's not doing a whole lot for their team right now, as they are still down about 1,000 gold, mainly because of the lead that's spiking in the bot lane.
Drawing attention very quickly to something else that's pretty spiky. The first Grievous Wounds item picked up by Ewok in this game. It actually will let him not only have an edge in the top lane, but is the first real introduction of any sort of counterplay to the healing that we have on both sides. Not just for Ewok, because remember, we've got a Nyla and a Soraka on the opposite end of the rift.
Right, yeah, you're going to need to see some early Xyz from the bot side, and maybe a Morello or just an Oblivion Orb in the mid lane from Crowfeather once he starts roaming around the map, because there's so much healing, both in Olaf and Volibear on the top side and in Nyla Soraka on the bot side. And now we're seeing Dcim8 move towards something else that's going to add in some healing, and that's going to be this Ocean Drake.
Nice. Not the soul, fortunately for everyone, but still really a good pickup for this team. On the opposite side, it is answered, however. Wokian's going to be picking up the Rift Herald simultaneously, and we get to find out what soul we're actually getting in the next couple of minutes. Figure out where this game will be going. Mountain is... It's
good for Kronos, and it's good for
everyone. Yeah,
that's about it.
Well, I mean, Jojo Mojo and Cosmo Kramer, they could use a little bit more, oomph.
That's true. It definitely will help them a little bit, but it won't help as much because they're not going to be building, full tank or really tanky items in general. Maybe Cosmo if he wants to build Spear of Vintage later on or something. But we're seeing a lot of pushing from them, and Wakian not doing a whole lot with that ultimate. We've seen him use it once, I think, so far. That's when he was level 6. It's now been 2 levels, and Jojo Mojo and Cosmo have essentially always been pushed up into Mu and Pawn, and I would like to see him use that ultimate more often. Pawn has his ult. You can really use those synergetically very well. No real point in going top. You can go mid, but I think bot lane really is the better play for them.
I'm taking a look at the itemization, at the numbers right now for how much gold everybody's been able to accumulate, and Slayer versions specifically actually quite low in the effective gold because he's just spent all of his and gone into overtime to hit that first power spike on the Veigar. And I gotta say, I really like the move. The rest of Dcim8 are looking really good right now. You want a solid mid game to be able to back up what Jojo, Mojo, Cosmo, and Kronos have set up for you. Now we've got that, and likely the chance to be able to rocket this game out of control for Dcim8, as long as they can find an actual team fight around the next objective. Wokin, using that second charge of the ultimate, is going to jump onto Slayer, who doesn't get taken down just yet. Stopwatch buys him a lot of time. Flash away, but into the stun. His move follows it up, gets exhausted, and still takes him down. Kronos is fighting Wokian on the other side, but that doesn't matter anymore because there's a 4-man unit running down your bot lane. Jojo Mojo gets eviscerated by a quadruple team, and Kronos now is forced to run without ever having picked up that kill.
Yeah, I think my major issue on that, even though it didn't really play a factor into that fight, the amount of vision that Wokian was walking over behind that that dragon pit was just for free. There was 2 wards that they were walking around, and this fight ultimately still couldn't be stopped by the side of Dcim8, even despite knowing what was coming. And now on top side, Little Fizzy trying to do what he can to take out 1 tower, as well as proxy clearing this next wave. Doesn't look like he will be able to. Gets a little bit greedy trying to proxy that wave instead of just finishing off the tower. Meanwhile, mid and bot tower going to go down, and Ewok's taking a fight.
Ewok actually should be able to win this. Ultimate pop does cause some problems, but healing from the Mundo, not available through the ultimate just yet. It's going to be an even trade for now, but 3 outer towers go down in that time. 16 minutes into the game, the jungle is now likely out of the control of Dcim8, despite their really nice early game, because 1 team fight didn't go their way.
Yeah, the whole map is just now opened up in favor for Dragons now. Dcim8 still looking really good on the vision side of things, however. I like the way that they're moving around the map, the placement of the vision, the fact that Dragons haven't really been clearing out any vision, so Dcim8 are kind of just getting away with being able to go wherever they want in this map. And now Moo may be in danger. 3 looking mid, and Pawn nowhere close. Here comes Kronos on the top side of that.
Oh my god, it's just the Goon Squad. Forcing the flash, though, is not the worst thing in the world. It's good for Dcim8, and it's also really nice that Dragons of the West got to keep their AD carry. It is notable, however, that with that flash down, the next 5 minutes are going to be a lot riskier in terms of being able to take these engagements, and that's for both sides.
Yeah, especially since we do have Dragon coming up relatively soon. Not sure the exact timer on it at the moment, but it looks like we're less than a minute out on that. Bork is finished on that Olaf. We do see the crown finished on Slayer as well, opting to not go for the Everfrost first, which has kind of been the play recently, especially with the fact that he's going Predator.
I guess he's thinking, you know what, Nocturne's ulting me anyways, so...
Yeah.
So I guess I'll get a few more seconds of life. I'm not sure how true that's going to be. We talked about ulting things like the Soraka here, getting you a lot of value, but we'll find out, right? Only one way to experiment to see how this science ends up going down. But the vision that you were talking about earlier that was in the favor of Dcim8 is now being cleared out, with Dragons of the West pulling off a cheeky early rotation, bringing Ewok down, and Slayer's just managed to teleport into what's going to be this next fight. Busy is caught on the other side, though, and pops the Ghost to try and get away, maintains his flank position, and now has pushed Dragons of the West out of position. Baby Cage goes down. Wokian hasn't used the ultimate just yet, but in comes the Cosmic Radiance, and now you have got nothing to worry about unless you're Moo, who dodges right back into the backside, taking out Jojo Mojo, and is working on Slayer versions as Kronos jumps over the wall onto him. Lil Fizzy's done a lot of work on the backside, occupying the tank, and ultimately ends up getting out alive as it's 2 versus 3. Make it 2 versus 2. The healing is unending from the Silas Mundo combination, and it's too much for even poor little Soraka as an ace comes through for Dragons of the West.
That was a fight that really should have gone for Dcim8, if I'm honest. The way that started off for Dragons was not ideal. The abduct abscond missing early from Crowfeather onto Little Fizzy, which may have found an early kill onto him, just ended up going terribly. They had to pop that Cosmic Radiance a little bit early. Little Fizzy still had the Ghost proccing when he was running through the back line as well. Moo using that ultimate to get to the other side of the wall, to get away from Little Fizzy, But Lofis still did so much damage in that, as did Kronos. It's just Slayer Virgins getting taken out that early on. Cosmo couldn't keep up with the amount of healing that was needed in that fight, and Ewok and Crowfeather just absolutely walking over them for the rest of that fight. Crowfeather now untouched, as is Ewok, both 0 deaths on their team. And we're seeing Crowfeather start to stack up that Dark Seal yet again. 9 stacks. Again, where have we seen this before? Dia, I'm getting deja vu.
He may not die this series. There's a genuine possibility that this Silas is just the thing you have to ban away against Dragons of the West. It gave them so much power in that last fight. As I want to shout out, did the Cosmic Radiance. The few seconds of immortality there was, I think, the thing that changed this from a, well, the Abscond missed, so we probably die now, to a, we get a second chance.
For sure. No, that Cosmic Radiance came in clutch, hit all 5. Jojo Mojo, you can't be there, my friend.
Dead,
my,
right?
oh, they got the heal?
That's a lot of healing.
Not enough, though.
No, Pawn, however, has put them in a rough place. It's worth noting there's no tower here, but Moo, unfortunately, doesn't have the dash anymore, so it's 2 quick kills going the way of Dcim8. Now Pawn and Ewok have teamed up to bring this one back, and Crowfeather's getting involved. Cosmic Radiance going to go down, but it's a little too late, as Dcim8 have now fully disengaged. And more than enough members remain, however, for Dragons of the West to keep pushing the agenda to make this wave crash into the tier 2 and make this quite uncomfortable. Dazzle connects onto a few members. You've taken a small chunk out. Dragons of the West aren't really getting anything here.
Yeah, that was ultimately a good play that turned into a bad play. Overextended a little bit. Couldn't quite find the kill. Crowfeather kind of saving it, coming in from behind onto Slayer, stealing that Primordial Burst, finishing him off with it. Now 10 stacks on that Dark Seal from that kill. 3-0-5. So Slayer I don't think he even used that zone. He probably could have used that to have his team back him up a little bit, but maybe just thought he was dead no matter what, or that he could get out and that Crowfeather wouldn't be able to finish him off. Dragon, not quite up yet. No objectives on the map for them to really take, so now they kind of need to figure out where they're at, start pushing some waves, get priority up towards the top side of the map, because they could definitely go for a Baron within the next minute or so.
we get the second Dcim8 Insanity Baron of the day, with Wokian jumping forward. However, they know that Kronos is around there. Slayer is lit. She's just vibing off to the side. Now doesn't have that safety tool anymore, but does have the baby cage. Throws it down onto Wokian, who is in danger of being ulted for right now. Everybody will be able to back out, and Dragons don't have anything to worry about. That was moments you wish weren't on stream.
Yeah, Slayer maybe thought that the Nocturne was coming after him, but it was a little bit late and popped the Zonias. Maybe that was an accident. But you got to think he was trying to go set up a baby cage to stop the full-on engage onto Kronos there, and that just went horribly wrong for him. Now, Dragons of the West up about 4,000 gold, 2 Drakes to 1, 3 towers to 1. And now it is all about the top side of the map for them. We just saw Ewok take it back, sitting on 2.5 items here. Has that Sunfire Aegis as well as the full Thorn Mail there. We're seeing the Executioners on Wokian here early. I do like to see that as well for that heal cut. The Medjais has been upgraded by Crowfeather. We're seeing a couple items on Moo, the Kraken Slayer with PD versus the Immortal Shield Bow and Storm Razor of Jojo Mojo.
It's unfortunate that we're only seeing these heal cut items on Ewok and Wokian, though, because if these were equalized, if Dcim8 had heal cut of their own, things would be going a lot easier for them in these fights. Even that one is Jojo Mojo. I stand still for a few seconds, flashes, and I guess gets out. There's just a little bit of stuttering here. A few growing pains, perhaps, in the first couple weeks of the season for Dcim8.
Yeah, and even for Dragons, too, a little bit early on that Cosmic Radiance. Now they don't have it for this Dragon that's up in the next minute or so. Kronos walking forward.
Pawn doesn't have a way to get out. He uses that flash to buy a little bit of space, but Crowfeather's now in the front lines, and Wokian's comfortable being there as well. Now we've got these extremely tanky members of Crowfeather and Ewok taking folks out. Crowfeather goes gold and hasn't gone down just yet, but Slayer takes him down! Finally, the Silas dies. But I got news for you, Fury. It does not matter to Dragons of the West. In every way but morally, they have won.
And now Cosmo just going to go ahead and die to the tower. That's an ace for one. Crowfeather dying to the push R of Vigar. And now the third dragon, the second mountain drake of the map, going to go over to Dragon to the west. And maybe even this Baron. We're seeing pings for it to the top side, as well as pings around the middle of the map from Dcim8 here. Dcim8 faltering slightly in that fight, I think solely just on positioning and the way Dragons of the West were pulling them around the jungle.
And there's so much gold on the frontliners. Wokian, I think, again, making really good use of the sustain that he's got for the second game in a row, is able to swap out with people like Ewok, like Crowfeather, juggle a lot of damage, for which there is healing as well, because Pawn is constantly providing these small little heals from Starlight's Touch throughout that entire fight when everyone is in melee range of him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the gold range that's on the map right now. You've got a 2k gold lead for the side of Moo. You've got 1,000 in the mid lane. You've got 2,000 in the jungle, 1,000 up top. Just here and there, so much gold stacking. Now a 7,000 gold lead, and Fizzy might be trying to fight Feather.
Don't know if he wins this fight. He is a level down.
He might.
But he's also Olaf. In comes the Kingslayer for a little bit of healing. Crowfeather gets one again.
Oh, we got saved.
Barely gets out alive. Wow, that was way closer than I thought it would be.
That's not even close, baby, right there. Wow. Walking with an absolute save from across the map. Fizzy definitely won that fight. But wow, that was close.
Shoot, just so that everyone's aware, that was a 2-3 Olaf who was a level down against a 4-1 Silas.
Gotta love it. Gotta love champions.
That's,
200 years, baby.
That's just crazy. I can't believe it that Olaf is still vibing in League of Legends. He's still like, yeah, I'll just click you. Moo actually thinking the same thing right now. Does jump forward onto Jojo Mojo for a second, gets Dazzle onto Kronos as well, and apparently the health bars just don't exist for Dcim8 with the Cosmic Radiance. That's certainly going to be the case. Pawn gets chunked out and does get taken down, but now Slayer's got no ultimate. Navegar with no ultimate doesn't have a whole lot of damage. Moo flashes out over the wall as Fizzy has re-entered the fight with Crowfeather and Ewok on the front lines, and with Wokian finding the ultimate button once again, we get another two members of Dcim8 wiped off the rip. Their inhibitor tower and inhibitor are down, and I'll tell you what, Fury, it's likely the end of the game.
They're throwing up the GGs. I'd like to imagine that a couple of these fights go differently if turret damage is fixed. I still don't think it is. I don't think it scales beyond the 40% damage that it's doing. But wow, Dragons of the West play that dive perfectly using that Cosmic Radiance. Slayer of Virgins coming through, able to take out Pawn, but it just wasn't enough. Dragons of the West go on to win it. And almost unkillable in the mid lane, but not quite. Crowfeather does keep the same KDA, but does die once.
Yeah, unlucky, right? Unlucky. I wish that he had survived, just so that we had the unkillable Silas meme, but it's pretty darn close, and honestly, I'm banning that Silas if I ever encounter 100%. Dragons of the West. This was the difference maker for them in two games. One where it was obviously going to get a lot of value, and the first one where the Silas was like, I don't know, let's see what happens. It still got a lot of value. I'm scared.
It worked very well. I'm surprised it got through game number 2, if I'm honest. I would really like to hear the understanding of why Silas was allowed through in game 2 after the commanding lead that he garnished in game number 1. Like I said, maybe they just thought we could play against it, but they drafted a lot more champions that Silas's ult could steal and use very well for his team. So they go 2-0 on the night. Dragons of the West over Dcim8 Legacy here.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, their last week not really being able to pick up a game gets answered, right? We came into today going, Dcim8 were the ones that were able to pick up the one win against CB, so they're likely the stronger team, and that was proven wrong almost instantly, as we are still getting these teams gelling, of course, but also we had some just really good in-game fundamentals from a lot of players. I want to shout out especially the teamwork of Ewok and Waki, and especially in that last game, being able to set themselves up as frontliners and juggle aggro really well. They integrated Crowfeather into it in this last game at the same time. But these two frontliners on, I believe it was the Kled and the Jarvan in game one with the double Gore Drinker, and then on the Nocturne and the Mundo, buy so much space for people like Moo and people like Pawn. I don't think you have to buy space for Crowfeather. I think he kind of does that himself.
Yeah, I think in game two specifically, it was more of an issue for Moo to have someone in front of him at all times and be able to peel. And we saw that a couple of times, especially around that dragon fight where we saw that Lil Fizz was able to get behind on that Olaf, almost kill Moo, and then Moo be able to shift, get to the other side of the map where we already saw Ewok and Walking with Crowfeather hanging out and start to sit around his carries.
Yeah, there was a lot of value that was gotten from that Kaisa, a pick that we don't see too often. Since this series has concluded, though, let's take a look at some of our others, as we showed you guys who was facing off against who. And during the second little bit of the day, I do want to say, Glue Eaters, we're still getting an update on their game. However, there's still one game certainly going on, and it's that CB series.
Yeah, that CB versus Oasis game should be fun. I don't know that they win game two. I'll be honest, Oasis may just take that 2-0. I am surprised, however, on the AoE game.
Yeah.
0-2 for AoE. Did not expect that. They've been kind of smurfing it in other leagues, especially Ginger Turmeric, if you guys are following them at all. Their whole setup just as teams are great. The copy pasta. There's 2042, there's 2000 AoE teams,
Yeah.
that's the copy pasta for a reason. So the fact that they are losing, I think, speaks volumes to Shadow Wilds as a division as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about Hypnotic at the start of the day. They're a roster that we can
Yep.
look forward to, whose games we will get to see in the coming weeks, but not this one. As today's games have concluded, and with the 2-0 going the way of Dragons of the West, they are definitely a roster to watch because, remember, we're in week 2, and while everyone else is growing in their skill and their ability to coordinate, so are they. And there's clearly a very high ceiling here for them. I have been Dia. Fury, do you have any last words for us before we close things out?
I got nothing except thank you all for coming out and watching. Don't forget to buy a keychain. Shout out to Ejinx and Metro for producing tonight. Always glad to have them behind the scenes for us. But thank you all for coming. We will see you all same time tomorrow. Well, me and Dia won't, but you guys will see everybody else here tomorrow.
See you.